Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Yes, I'm in my home studio. We got a little snow. We got a little weather here, but we have an awesome show planned for you today. TJ Moe's going to join me here in 20, 30, 40 seconds, I believe. We're going to talk about, funny enough, Lamar Jackson and his new hairstyle and the significance of his new hairstyle, and whether his new hairstyle, where he's put perm in his hair and straightened out his hair and he looks like a pimp from the 1970s, he looks like Snoop Dogg in some gangster video. I'm sure Ryan Clark is thrilled with this, that Ryan Clark, this is the authentically black quarterback that I'm talking about, that, oh my God, this is awesome. This is what makes him so much better than Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes and Doug Williams and all the other fake black quarterbacks before. Lamar Jackson has a new hairstyle, and his hair is straightened out like a little blonde woman. This is the authentic blackness that we've all been thirsting for. And I'm just surmising or what. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I like Lamar Jackson, but, you know, he's like anybody else, lost in fame, without the proper male discipleship. He's straying and losing his way a bit. And I know many of you will be sitting out there, Whitlock, you're making too much of a hairstyle and just let him go. And he's young, and why can't he just wear his hair any kind of way that he wants? I'm going to connect this to something bigger. And we'll talk about it with TJ and, many of you, well, TJ, you shouldn't be talking. Why aren't you talking to Delano or Shamika about this? Because this is really a spiritual Christian issue. And Lamar Jackson claims a faith. And he's been misled, and he's trying to serve, in my view, he's trying to serve two different leaders. He's trying to serve God, and he's trying to serve the world. And the world has convinced black people and black celebrities and black icons and influencers and athletes that, hey, you must do things to prove your blackness or lean into your blackness. And what that has been defined as for black people is anything that disrupts the norm. That's what being black is. If you're doing something to disrupt what is normal, you're being black. And that's why the NFL leads inspire change. They don't define what change is. It's just anything that's different. And they want the players. Just change things. Just do things different. And, you know, the Bible and Jesus Christ, it's immovable. And so we don't need to change anything about it. We just need to stand firm on that ground. And so men should not be adopting hairstyles, styles of dress that mimic women. They, you know, probably shouldn't be putting chemicals in their hair to straighten their hair out like a little white girl. And but you know, maybe I'm crazy and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to connect it to the other story that's been dominating kind of the news cycle, or really was dominating the cycle. Not that Lamar and his hairstyle are dominating the news cycle, but it was announced that Cynthia Erivo, I believe is her name, a bald, gay, black woman originally from Nigeria, family immigrated to London, the UK or whatever, and that she's some popular actress. She had a key role in the movie Wicked. Well, now she's going to play Jesus Christ in the movie A Star is Born, or in the play or musical A Star is Born, at the Hollywood Bowl out in Los Angeles, California. And it's not a coincidence that it's a black woman that has been chosen to play this role, because, again, the blackness is defined here in American culture by Hollywood and all the people that run those industries as, are you doing something to disrupt the norm? And so what could be more disruptive to the norm than a woman? a gay woman, a bald woman playing the role of Jesus Christ. What could be more disruptive? And she'll be applauded and she'll be rewarded. And this is how they want black people to see themselves, that our role is to disrupt the norm. Our role is to disrupt Christian values. You think it's the norm and you think anything that change is good. I don't. I disagree. And so I'm going to have that conversation, go a little bit back and forth with T.J. Moe about that. We've got some segments with Shamika Michelle and Steve Kim that will also follow in on this conversation today. As I explained earlier, we got a little weather here in Nashville, and so we're trying to make the best. I'm here in my home studio. Let's welcome in T.J. Moe into this conversation. Let's start with Lamar Jackson. TJ, I see this hairstyle thing, and look, maybe it's temporary, but I see it as a little Cam Newton-ish. Cam Newton-ish. Cam got all off into crazy hairstyles and being a fashionista, and just he had to disrupt the norm. That he was dedicated his life to disrupting the norm. And the moment he started doing that, his career started going the other direction. People would lose my mind if I say this is a bad sign for Lamar Jackson, in my view. I don't think this is a positive sign. Is it going to lead to a diminished play from Lamar Jackson? I'm not sure, but I do think it's going to diminish his leadership ability in the National Football League. And it just, to me, screams that he's got a different set of priorities than just being the best quarterback in the NFL and leading his team to a Super Bowl.
I'm trying to figure out exactly how did we find out about this? Did he put it up on Instagram?
Yeah, he put out a picture of himself, I believe, on social media.
Okay. And do we think this is permanent? Is it, you know what I mean? Like it's the off season. People do different things in the off season. If somebody took a picture of if he comes back and he's the exact same guy a week from now, I probably don't care that much. I wouldn't have put the picture out in the first place, but in the day of social media, everybody's ridiculous. If he sticks with this, I agree. This is Caleb Williams. This is Cam Newton. This is, I actually very much agree with the idea that being black is, I would say it somewhat differently, just taunting white people and letting them know that they aren't allowed to say anything against this because this is black culture. Black culture, defined to us, is we do whatever we want, white people, and you better shut up or you're a racist. That is black culture. And if you remember at the NFL draft, do you remember the suit Caleb Williams wore? It was some sort of zip up, and I'm like,
yes.
Hey, man, that's weird. And at the time, you said, nah, that's just a black thing. And I wonder if you, having had the revelation you just have now, still agree with that.
As long as the abortion pill is legally mailed and taken in all 50 states, no state can be abortion-free. Abortion pills carry distinct risks to mothers and death to babies, and now accounts for over 60% of all abortions. Preborn's network of clinics shine a light into this darkness by offering free services to women considering the future of their baby, including the abortion reversal pill. This powerful remedy can help to reverse the curse of this toxic pill. Preborn reaches into the heart of babies and mothers with God's love and compassion, and to date, they have rescued more than 300,000 babies. Your tax-deductible monthly support of any amount is crucial in the fight for life. All proceeds go towards life, and together we can reverse the curse. Saving babies isn't just about one life. It's about saving the heartbeat of the entire nation. To donate, please call pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless.
Yeah, my problem with Caleb Williams wasn't the suit. We wear funky suits. It was the fingernail painting. And it was crawling up in the stands in his mother's arms after a game. This pink phone cover. It was all that. The suit deal, we got a little flair to the way we dress. And so I was willing to write that off. But the fingernail painting and the whole feminine energy, and didn't he come into some press conference talking about his dog, cuddling up or snuggling with his dog, or there's just too much feminine energy from Caleb Williams that was my red flag. Let me give you the proper analogy or why I consider this a red flag. Jimmy Butler did this thing with his hair. He straightened it out, showed up on media day with the Miami Heat, and then he went back to a somewhat more normal hairstyle. He didn't keep that hairstyle throughout the season, but it was just a flag that said, oh, Jimmy Butler's really into his hair. And gay men are really into their hair. Most guys that are on point, on task, on responsibility, and just they're properly motivated and properly got. It's like, man, I got to go to the barbershop, and that's going to cost me 60 minutes or 45 minutes, and I really don't have that time to sacrifice. Could you just give me a cut? Let me get out of here. We just don't care that much about our hair, and we just try to keep it simple because we can use our time better than that. That's been my problem with all these guys getting their hair braided and sitting in between some woman's legs or some guy's legs and getting their hair braided for hours. I'm just, who has this kind of time? You don't got something better to do with your time? But these guys, instead, I grew up, my dad was a barber, and then he used to take us to Leon's barbershop in Indianapolis in the hood. And I don't ever remember going to the beauty shop with my mother. These guys all went to the beauty shop with their mothers. And they didn't grow up with their dad taking them to the barbershop. And so they're really into their hair. And I think that's a red flag.
I certainly think it's a red flag. I mean, look, Derrick Henry finally just cut his hair at the very end of the season. At least, and again, you're talking now to white guys. I don't even have a full understanding of what it takes to make dreads. It seems crazy to me to put honey and different things in your hair. I have no idea how any of this works. Don't really want to know. I've known a couple white guys that had dreads, and I just know they smell disgusting. It hasn't quite been exactly the same way with the black guys I've known. But all of it seems a little bit weird to me. And this is coming from somebody who, when I was playing for a time, had longer hair. It was 5 inches for a very short time. But white hair is not really the same. All I did was throw it back and put it. I didn't have to braid it. I didn't have to do anything to it. It's like, if you ever seen Friday Night Lights, it looked like Tim Riggins. Throw your hair back, put some water on it, throw a helmet on, or just do a buzz cut. The entire time I was I was playing from probably about the 9th grade through my senior year of college. I cut my own hair, and it was a one cut. I just took the clippers, did my own hair all the way up and down, and then it took me 5 minutes, and then I would tell my roommate, hey, put a straight line in the back of my neck here so I don't look like an idiot. And that's how everybody in my house did it in college. We all had the same haircut. We all used the same clippers, and it was 3 white dudes who did. So I agree with you, and I very much relate to the amount of things that I had to do that were better than sitting there worried about my hair when I was in college, particularly when I was trying to be good at football. This is Lamar Jackson, who now is 2 MVPs deep, I think finished second in this year's MVP, but is yet to get anywhere near a Super Bowl. You'd think he's less worried about his hair and maybe more worried about going out and throwing to some receivers. But I will tell you, who's a pretty boy on the white side? Tom Brady. He's got a lot of hairstyles over the years, and he's done a lot of that stuff. He's the guy in Ugg boots. For Christmas, when I was up there, everybody got Ugg boots. And so there is some pretty boy in Tom Brady.
How long into the process, how many Super Bowls had he won by the time he got off into the fashion lane and hooked up with Giselle and all that? Tom Brady had established himself and an aura about himself. And again, I'm not trying to rationalize or make excuses for Brady. He is a bit of a pretty boy. But he did a lot of that. He made that pivot after having a lot of success and accomplishing some things. I just think on your journey up, and I don't know anything about white people's hair or white men's hair, Let me clarify that. I don't know much about white men's hair. I actually do know something about the other side, but the obsession for and maybe I've never evaluated, but why I see it as so feminine is because black women are obsessed with their hair. There's black women will go to the beauty shop, get their hair done, and then sleep in a way that their head never touches the pillow to protect this hairstyle they just got from the beauty shop. And they'll do it for several days to try to protect this new hairstyle they just got. It's the lengths that and the amount of money. Chris Rock did a movie about black women in hair and how much money is spent and how predatory hair people, the Asian community, just like takes advantage of black women's obsession and how much money they will spend on their hair. And so when I see a man that's that obsessed with his hair, it just screams femininity to me. And when all these guys that got these buns now and it's braided up, and sometimes I watch them on the basketball court and I'm like, am I watching women's basketball or men's basketball? I mean, literally I have to focus in to figure it out. And I think, and again, I know I'm really old and I'm dating myself, I think the same thing about tattoos. Who has time to sit in some tattoo parlor and get half their body and their back and all this stuff tatted up? I just see it as like, this person has no purpose in life, doesn't understand his responsibility. He just wouldn't be sacrificing that much of his time trying to change his outside appearance that much. He wouldn't be wasting his money. And for me in particular, I just like, if he's really in touch with God and his relationship with God, it's like, who would draw this garbage on God's temple? Who would do that? And that's me. And I know I'm outdated. Everybody's got tattoos now, and it's the thing to do. And they put biblical scriptures on themselves, but a lot of it is just God. Anyway, I just think it's the wrong focus for Lamar Jackson.
Totally agree. The other part of the hair thing, just to wrap that up, I've always thought it was so weird. Most black dudes have a better hairline than white dudes, and we all got a widow peak going way back. And it's like, well, if I was a black dude and I had a good hairline, it would be as short as possible. I'd take the little brush, comb it down, and be done for the day and never think about it again. And I do that every single day. And my hair wouldn't be as long as yours. There's no way. I can't figure out why everybody just doesn't have. You got a good hairline. Your hair's, you got, what do they call it? The girls call it salt and pepper now. Cut it way down. Never think about it again. It's a nice, easy look. I can't figure it out. To the point about Lamar Jackson and Caleb Williams and certainly Cam Newton, who's probably the worst of all of them. It's all a scream of insecurity as well, because this is the point that now we're talking about a professed Christian and Lamar Jackson. I don't know about Caleb Williams, but Cam Newton is a pastor's son, right? So we're talking about guys who we certainly think, I mean, minimally have been around the faith. Some of them at least say that they haven't. Why are you so insecure? But what is it that you're screaming for attention, that you got to do your hair this way and then post it? You want to do your hair that way for 5 minutes? I don't really care. If you want to take your hair out and that's how it looks after the break, you want to leave it like that for a little, show it to your, I don't think Lamar has kids, but show it to your daughter. It's like my daughter wants to, I've never let her do it yet because I'm making it very clear that there's a difference between boys and girls, but she wants to paint my nails when she does hers. You got kids, you do small things for them, but I don't understand the scream for attention, because that is what this is. And that usually your insecurity is some sort of disconnect between you and God, because you're not screaming for all those things if you're good.
I certainly think insecurity is a part of it. I'm not sure if it's the overwhelming driving force. It could be as simple as, again, what my argument is, like, the culture has been defined as disrupt the norm and do things that draw attention to yourself. If you look, and I used to fall into this, if you look, I've already said and stated, like, man, there's a flair to the way black dudes dress and the suits we choose. And there's a reason why on all these panel shows, You'll have an RG3, you'll have a Ryan Clark, and they're always wearing something different to draw attention to themselves. And what that is like, that's the black thing to do. And and so the culture has been defined as draw attention to yourself and do something that will, again, RG3 or Nate Burleson, who's on that CBS show, they're always doing something with their hair. They're always doing something with their suit. They're always doing something to try. They're hoping that someone will tweet a complaint about their appearance so they can say, hey, you're just racist. You just don't want me to be me. And you just, if I'm not conforming to your standard, blah, 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 they don't understand they've been tricked into thinking disrupting the norm is the greatest thing you can do. And it's part of the reason why someone like Muhammad Ali has been so celebrated as the greatest. To set up that he disrupted the norm. He made white people uncomfortable. And again, I'm not doing this as an anti-Muhammad Ali rant, because there's a great deal of Muhammad Ali that I respect, and at least, not that I agreed with his religion, but at least he was connected to a religion, and his stance against the Vietnam War and all that, there was a principle, a religious principle behind that. And there was, these religious people that he had to answer to. But now all these, they're not connected to any kind of religious institution. There's no elders guiding them. They're not being disruptive with a true purpose. They're just being disruptive to be disruptive, to build a brand. And maybe what we're seeing here in Lamar is like, hey, if I can't be the greatest winner in the NFL, the greatest quarterback in the NFL, I'll be the blackest quarterback in the NFL, and Ryan Clark and all these other people will see me as someone they have to defend because they're defending blackness, and that's why I'm out here with looking like a 1970s pimp.
Jason, I think you and I each need to get gold lapels with our initials on it, and I think we would both really stand out, and it'd be a very good thing for Fearless. We'd stand out in a big way. My high school coach told us, and this is going back to ninth grade. What are you, 14 years old, 15 years old in ninth grade? We were not allowed to even wear armbands, sweatbands. We weren't allowed. You had to stand out with your play. He's like, hey, you're part of this team. No different than actually what he used was the Patriots in 2001 when the Rams came out and they announced the offense, and Marshall Faulk came out and Kurt Warner, and I was a huge Rams fan at the time, and the Patriots chose to come out as a team. And my coach used that and said, that's what a team does. Did you watch the Patriots play that night? Because they whipped one of the best teams in NFL history because they came out and played as a team. And that's what we're going to do. And so we're not going to wear armbands. I couldn't even wear a sweatband. Didn't matter if I was sweating or not. Nobody else was wearing sweatbands, so we weren't going to do that. We had to wear the same pants, same shirts. Everybody had to tuck it in. You couldn't wear socks that were too high. And you were just taught to be part of the team. So this is why I don't totally understand. It's like, look, if Ryan Clark wants to wear his really nice suit, great. If you can afford a nice suit, but it's all the other stuff. I don't get it. And I wonder, where do you think it started? Because once upon a time, black folks, I think, go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, dressed as nicely as they possibly could because it was your best, right? It's like way back when you were seen as less than, you dressed in a way that would present your best. And has it now just moved from that to where we stood out back then, and now it's generationally moved to where you're always standing out, no matter what. You have to keep doing crazier and crazier things. And now it's just upsetting white people. So now wait until I dress like a woman and paint my fingernails and jump up in my mommy's arms and have my pink phone case. It's just one absurd thing after the next to stand out.
Well, if we went way back, let's say we went 100 years back or 120 years back, there would be the obvious answer of like, hey, society in here in America was telling black people, you're less than. You can't drink out of this water fountain. You can't live here. You can't do this. You can't do that. You had to be deferential to white people. And so that is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so that's going to provoke a reaction from black people to, hey, I got to prove that I'm just as good as them. And so I'm going to dress in a way that draws attention. That's all understandable. But we've moved beyond that. And just as a culture, just think about the way black and white people used to dress going to sporting events. People used to get dressed up to go to baseball games and just go out on the town. And everybody dressed in a classy, let me put on my best foot forward. Guys more often every day wore a sport coat and a hat and maybe a tie and blah, blah, blah. That was the custom for everybody. And then I'll say, and I would have to do some more research on this because I've looked at it and had people write and talk about. It's like when Hollywood basically ran the Catholics out of Hollywood and any influence in Hollywood. That's when like the black exploitation movies came out and they started establishing these black archetypes like Shaft. There was a movie series called Shaft, and it was about I'm pretty sure Shaft was some sort of pimp or drug dealer. And, you know, I can remember, this is years ago. TJ, have you ever been to a drive-in movie theater? Yeah, they're actually tremendous, and I wish that we still had that. They're fun, but as kids, going to the drive-in was you'd pile into a station wagon, and you know you'd go to the drive-in, and again they'd show these black exploitation movies that celebrated these ghetto drug dealers, pimps, whatever, and they had a way of dressing that was flamboyant and over the top. And they planted these seeds in young black men's mind, in young black women's mind, that the really cool, successful, edgy guy that you aspire to was, again, had this street edge and this ghetto-ness and this flamboyant way of dressing. And that kind of became a cultural norm, not calling black people victims here. But the culture and the movie industry and television industry has sent out a lot of messaging pushing us that direction. And we should, at some point, realize like, hey, man, this is crazy. I reject that. And it comes from getting close to God.
Join hundreds of like-minded men like myself in Nashville on May 2nd and 3rd for this very important conference and men's summit. It's Roll Call 3.0. It's my favorite time of the year. I get to invite you into Nashville to worship with me, to inspire you, to inform you, to fellowship with you, to listen to great music. And this year, I brought Tucker Carlson into this whole deal. It's going to be amazing. Friday night, we have events for men and women. Saturday, of course, we have Roll Call, which is exclusive to just men. It's our biggest event. We love the speakers we have this year. You're going to be inspired. You're going to go home a better man. And then Saturday night, you, your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other, I'm inviting you into a private dinner with me and some of my friends at my very good friend Lee Beeman and Julie Beeman's home here in Nashville, their estate. It's going to be an incredible finish to Roll Call. To enjoy all of this, go to fearlessrollcall.com for additional information. Want to see you on Saturday, May 3rd. Want to invite you to Friday, May 2nd and Friday night, May 3rd as well. Would love to have you at all of these events. Most important, Saturday afternoon, May 3rd. Need you here at Roll Call. fearlessrollcall.com. Can't wait to see you.
Because for me, the closer I get to God, the less the movies that I used to watch, the TV shows that I used to watch, I can't watch them anymore. And I can't enjoy them the same way. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is The Shield. I've probably watched it from start to finish 6, 7, 8 times. But the closer I get with God, I was working out in my gym the other day. I said, let me put on an episode of The Shield while I work out. And this is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. and there was the Shield. There was such graphic content in the Shield that I turned it off. I was like, I can't watch this. And I was like, holy cow, I used to watch this and enjoy this. And it's not that the Shield's a bad TV show. It's a reflection of reality to some degree. The Shield is. It's exaggerated, but it's about cops and gangbangers in Los Angeles. It's a reflection of reality to some degree. But now it's just much harder for me to watch not because I think they've done something inappropriate in the Shield. It's like I get so sad that people are living this way and thinking this way that it's just like I just don't want to be depressed. It just brings me down, and I used to watch it and enjoy it. Anthony Anderson played this great character in The Shield, I believe in season 4 or 5. He and Glenn Close were in there, and he plays this guy from out of prison. It's some sort of street leader. Love this season of The Shield, but I can't enjoy it the same way because seeing that depiction of somewhat of reality, it just so disturbs me because I just know how horrible it is and just what it leads to. And so as black people, we've been moving away from a biblical worldview and a relationship and comfortable with Christianity. We've been moved away from that. We're more comfortable with presenting ourselves, aligning ourselves with this criminal street culture, and we've tatted ourselves up like we've all been to prison. We braid our hair up like we all sit in prison and get our hair braided, and now we're doing hairstyles that, pimps and gangbangers use, and like Lamar Jackson should be trying to be the boy next door quarterback. That's his lane. That's what the NFL is about. But instead, he wants to mimic rappers and the culture more than football and the actual culture that's made him rich.
Yeah, you don't have to be Russell Weirdo, but you can just be a normal guy next door.
Doug Williams. You can be Doug Williams.
Yes. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. And he'd be far more like, I have heard from people who have been around Lamar and cannot stand Lamar. So there is a side to him that is very unlikable to at least some people. So that what we see in the media, I like what I see in the media. I even like how he plays the game. He plays very hard, doesn't make excuses. But I do think there's another side to him, and perhaps we're seeing that. To your point about the culture and all that, it is fascinating. It's certainly not just a black thing. Going through college, go through high school, and into college, my mind was so calloused, even as a Christian, to the rap music and the stuff they were saying. Song came on, that song, All the Lights by Kanye West?
Yes.
The stuff that is said in that song, it was in all of our highlight tapes. It came on the other day, and I'm like, holy cow, how was I listening? It is poison to your mind. I was on a plane last year, on a Southwest plane, okay, and it was one of those flights where they had the screens and you could play the movie or whatever. And I think it was the second Creed movie, 2 or 3, whichever the new one was at the time. And the music that was playing on there, it was only in my headphones, but I was so embarrassed by it, I had to turn it off, even though nobody else could hear it. I was just looking around, and I'm like, holy cow. It was the N-word every other word. It was the F-word every other word. I'm like, I got to watch something else. I just turn it off, read a book. And so I just think we've been so conditioned. I'll give you another example. And this is, again, I go to mostly an all-white gym. I live in a pretty white part of town. There's a few black guys that go there, but what the girls...
Yeah, let me add this. I don't want you to be ashamed of that. My gym is all black. All black membership.
I've been in there. I've never worked out, but I have been in the gym.
You're not allowed to, but anyway, go ahead.
That's good to know. What the girls wear in this gym is crazy. And you have to train your mind because... So I noticed this only because when I first had my kids, I stopped going to the gym for a while because kids don't sleep. Wife needs help when one wakes up early. She's been up all night, whatever. So I would just work out in my basement. And so you didn't get used to seeing the girls dress and leaving absolutely nothing to the imagination at all. And so then you go back to the gym and you're like, holy cow, what am I doing? And every girl is dressed like that since college. And so you go back in the gym, it's like your mind has been so calloused to just believe it's totally normal to hear these rap songs all the time. And it's totally normal to basically see naked women walking around the gym. And you're supposed to be totally fine with that. And that's not going to affect you at all. It's crazy. And so it happens certainly in the white culture. I don't really believe there is a white culture, but to the degree that there would be, happens to us too, where I'm like, you get so ingrained in this. And look, my wife's a pretty pure woman. She doesn't say anything about it. It's not like she's like, hey, stop it, because she's calloused too. It's like, this is just how women dress. She doesn't dress like that, but she doesn't say, hey, stop looking at that woman. That's just how they do it. And we got to cut that out. So I can see how Lamar Jackson would be stuck in this culture. He's got, this is just how we do it.
Yes. And I know, he's young. He's got a bunch of money. He's got 1,000 distractions. He's trying to do some sort of biblical walk, but I just don't see it taking root based on his actions, because I've had these conversations like, this word, when it really gets inside of you, God's word, what's in the Bible, it changes you in dramatic ways. The things that you used to like, it's like, holy cow, I hate these things. I'll give you the example that was happening to me just this weekend. And it's not a new revelation, but it was really hammered home for me this weekend. I tweeted out, and this isn't me trying to name drop. It's just me sharing a story. But I tweeted out, I believe on Tuesday, a Riley Green song, Jesus Saves. And I was like, man, I've been listening to this for 2 straight days. And it's because on Sunday, I was out and went and stopped by to visit a friend of mine at the bar he owns. And Riley Green was there, and we set up and was talking to Riley Green, the country music artist, a couple 2 or 3 hours, great conversation. But I'm relatively new to country music, and so I know who Riley Green is because he owns this bar, Duck Blind, and with my buddy, and had met him, but I had never listened to his music in any kind of depth. And so when I left, I was like, man, Riley, I'm gonna go get deep off in your library and listen. And so I stumbled across the song Jesus Saves. I think it came out 4 or 5 months ago. It's amazing. And it reminded me of like Al Green. There's a great R&B singer named Al Green. He used to make songs like Jesus Saves. Al Green's an old school guy. And he was the Reverend Al Green. He was a soul singer, but he made great Christian songs. Well, and I'm like, I got to go all the way back to Al Green in the R&B black music world to find the kind of music that Riley Green put out 4 months ago. And I'm just like, R&B has moved so far away. There's no R&B artist, and I don't even know who's popular right now, or who is the new Usher or whatever. They don't make love music. They don't make anything that has a Christian theme to it or base. And so I'm listening to, and so I kept listening to this Jesus Saves, and then my Apple would run out, and they'd just start playing songs that weren't in my playlist or on or in my library, and they ended up playing a Morgan Wallen song, Smile, that just came out a month ago. I think it was the first release off his new album, and I was like, this Smile song is incredible. It doesn't have some sort of religious base, but it reminded me, there was a song years and years ago, you're too young, but Belle Biv DeVoe had a song, When Will I See You Smile Again? And it reminded me, I was like, Morgan Wallen, the country singer, is singing the kind of music that I would get from Belle Biv DeVoe? And it just speaks to where black music culture, where it has drifted off to. It's so far away from its traditional roots. And so Lamar Jackson and everybody else, me included, although I'm fighting that current, it's like we're lost in an ocean that has an undercurrent that you can't really feel. But that undercurrent takes you so deep off into the ocean that you look up and you're so far away from the shore, you're so far away from reality, you're so far away from your values and principles, and you didn't even feel that you were drifting off that far away. But now that I look at everything from a biblical point of view, I can see it. I see it everywhere. And I sit there and say, man, to get the kind of music that fills my soul and makes me feel something, I got to turn to these country music artists. They're making the only music that actually speaks to you. Everybody else is just cursing and they don't make love anymore. They F everybody. And it's like, it's cruel. It's unlistenable. And so if we're wondering, like Lamar, what I'm saying is just like, he's just in that undercurrent. He thinks he's trying to serve God, but he has no idea. He's out in the ocean, and he's getting carried farther and farther out into the ocean. And the next thing you know, you can't get back to shore. And so, TJ, last thing I wanted you to really comment on was the Jesus Christ Superstar deal, that Hollywood would put out a musical with a black, bald, gay woman as Jesus Christ. It goes back to what Christians are being trolled intentionally, and Hollywood's making no secret of it. And what disappoints me again is we're being trolled, and they're using black people as the primary trollers. But we didn't create A Star Is Born. We didn't do the casting for it. I know that she's taking this role, and I know she's from Nigeria, and I don't know what religion she practices, if she practices any at all. But there's no way, just as a fat person, let's say the Hollywood Bowl offered, hey, Jason, we want you to star as Jesus Christ in a musical. And I can't do that. I'm fat. Jesus wasn't fat. He's not gluttonous. I would just turn it down. I'm not going to mock Jesus and portray him as some fat guy. And for this woman, gay woman, I'm going to portray Jesus as a woman and I'm going to be gay. There's just like no line in the sand. There's nothing that they won't do to troll Christians.
Yeah, remind me of the Paris Olympics when they did the sort of the Last Supper, the drag show. The whole world is trolling Christians, and part of it's our fault because we don't stand up and do anything about it. And I don't know what the right answer to that is. I've tried to think through that. Like, we make posts on social media and say this is unacceptable or whatever, but what are we actually doing about it? There's a reason they wouldn't dare do this to Jewish people. They wouldn't dare do this to Muslims. They wouldn't dare do this to Hindu. I mean, we're the only ones. And so is it because we're the dominant ones and we're the religion of forgiveness? And I don't know. I haven't sorted through all that yet. But there is a reason that this is done to us. And maybe we do just, turn the other cheek. Although I'm not so sure that that verse is exactly about turning the other cheek. And there's a good case to be made that it's about defiance. And so I have not landed on what exactly that is yet. I do know that it's crazy. This is the same woman who was in that movie with Ariana Grande, Wicked, and it was the weird, it was like a week long. The media couldn't stop talking about these two freaks. And he's like, why do I have this gay black woman and this crazy Ariana Grande acting like this, crying to each other, on top of each other, acting like two lesbians when at least Ariana's not a lesbian. What is happening here? Why is this in my face? And then they pick this black woman to pick Jesus. I don't get it. I truly don't. And again, why do we allow it? To connect it to the other conversation, you could make the argument, and this is for black people, but this is for all people. Do you remember the verse that I sent you? I was trying to find it as you were talking there. I sent you a verse 2-3 weeks ago about a discussion that we had 2 years ago. And it was something that's in Proverbs 11 or 12. So we're right in there somewhere, where basically it says, in essence, when you have money, you feel like you don't need God. And I can't remember what the proverb is exactly. And do we think that both Christians, tying it back to black people, though, because black people seriously used to be the most spiritual of all of us for a time when they were the most persecuted. And now, go look at the black church. They're not the most persecuted anymore. They're worshiping at the throne of Obama, not the throne of Jesus. So have we all, Christians included, black, white, everybody, are we all too rich to even bother getting made fun of? You're making fun of Jesus? You want to put a gay black woman as Jesus? It's not affecting me in my life. I'm good over here. And it is there's a theory out there too that part of the reason Republicans, who had traditionally been the party of money, don't fight back very well is, hey, I'm not really trying to make any changes. I'm just trying to make enough money so that whatever's going wrong in the world doesn't affect me. And I think that's where Christians are.
Certainly, that's where a lot of people are in terms of, hey, if I make enough money, I can insulate myself from all the insanity, and that's all that matters. And my kids will be insulated. And so if this world goes totally Marxist and communist, at least I'll have enough money and we can live inside my couple of mansions in different locations and we'll be fine. That will not be the case. You're not going to isolate yourself from this with money. It's I don't know. Well, I will say this. I do think what this woman is doing and what the movie makers or whoever's financing this musical, I do think people are speaking out and rejecting it and mocking it and trying to push back to the best of their ability. Well, in California, it may be very successful. There's a whole LGBTQ group that they're probably trying to cater to, and they'll sell that thing out, and they'll turn a star or Jesus Christ Superstar into a whole Pride summer event out there at the Hollywood Bowl. And so, maybe it's just supply and demand, that out in California, it's so gay and so LGBTQ friendly that, this is just a business decision. Our gay community and the allies of gays would love to come out and spend money supporting a black gay woman as Jesus Christ. Maybe it's just a business decision.
What do you think, though, is the Christian response? And like I said, I've just started thinking about this. What should we be doing? What is the problem? Because obviously, to mock God is good. You can go all through Proverbs. You start mocking God, good luck with your life. But what's our job here? Like we do have a job as Christians.
I think for ministers at churches and for shows like us, we have an opportunity to talk about the cancer of feminism, because that's what is at the root of this, and the constant worship of women, and we've gone to the level of now, again, this whole rejection of the patriarchy and demolishing of the patriarchy is a plot or a plan to destroy Christianity. And so we have a chance to educate whoever we can reach to help them understand that feminism and this worship of women, wanting to putting women in men's roles, is what's at the root of all this chaos and demonic energy and failure that's going on in America, and in particular, it's most acute with Black America. And so this matriarchal culture, to the point that a black woman is now Jesus Christ, it should be getting explained to people from the pulpit. And then if I were in a white church, I would be using it the same jumping off point. Like, look at, when you go to this extreme with the matriarchy, or you just think you're a little bit feminist, you're not. It's all a slippery slope. And I'd be sitting in a white church saying, look at that. Black people were so super religious, but look at that slippery slope they're riding all the way to the point of that this black woman's going to play Jesus Christ, and they're not able to connect. Like, oh man, look at our kids. They're not improving academically. They're not getting married. They're not pursuing holiness. They're not, all their careers, or much of their careers, seems to be based around this violent gang culture that they are claiming as their own, this is a reflection of feminism. And if you're satisfied with those results, if you're so cowardly and heartless that you want to sentence your kids to this matriarchal culture and the results that it produces, go ahead and have at it. But, I would say for me and mine, we're going to follow the Lord. And at this church, that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the Lord because we're not going to go down this path of destruction that the world has paved out for us and is using to tie it all together, is using us and has defined for us anything that disrupts what's normal is black, and we should pursue being black. No, we should pursue a better and a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and we should pursue obedience to his way, not, hey, we just got to change things and we just got to disrupt everything. That's what being black is.
I haven't thought this all the way through, but I was compiling some thoughts as you were speaking there. Two things. One, what would you say to somebody who says, take the Garden of Gethsemane, for instance, Jesus doesn't need protected. He doesn't need defended. Peter tried, chopped off the ear of the guard, and Jesus said, hey, man, I'm not looking for your help. I'm good. Because that is some of what this would be. Now, I don't believe that argument, but people would make that argument. I do. I have a follow-up to that, but go ahead and answer that first.
I think there's obviously truth there. And so I'm not trying to protect Jesus. I'm trying to protect us from the curses and calamities and chaos that is a consequence of mocking God and co-signing the mocking of God. I'm trying to protect us. I'm trying to get us in God's favor. I want God's blessings to rain down on us, and it will not. As long as we're mocking God, as long as we're pursuing an identity outside the body of Christ, we're going to suffer great consequences. Jesus does not need defending. His word is eternal and factual and immovable, but we need defending, and we need to be creating an environment where kids can excel. We're all going to have to answer for this culture that we've created where kids can't excel. Their innocence is being stolen. Their sexuality is being stolen. We're all going to have to answer for that. Those of you that right now are listening, well, I live in Montana and I'm not around any of this, or I live in this suburb and I'm not. We're all going to have to answer. We all play some role in this to some capacity. It ain't me. Yes, it is. It's all of us. We have been derelict in our duty. We haven't we just haven't protected young people and their innocence, and we're going to pay. If you got your school districts got some drag queen story hour or these gay books in their schools, or teachers in there that want to be having conversations with 3rd and 4th and 5th graders about their sexuality, we're all dying and moving away from Christ and participating in a culture that annihilates kids in some capacity. Some of it just on the surface looks worse than others, but it's all bad.
So I totally agree with that. And that's why I don't buy that argument, because you have to match that up with Matthew 5, where it says we're supposed to be the salt of the earth. And it's like, I'm looking around and go, what's wrong with you people? You're going to get us struck by lightning, okay? You're over here mocking God, and I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me and the rest of these Christians over here. And I do appreciate that you spend most of your time, and I do too, speaking to Christians. There are other people that I think are called to speak to non-Christians and get people saved. I don't think I'm one of those people today. I'm speaking to Christians because I don't think most Christians are saved. And so that's one part of my argument. The other thing I was thinking about, and this is a little bit off topic, but it sort of goes to the same thing about like defending Jesus here, and to some degree. Everybody, those wristbands everybody used to wear, WWJD, what would Jesus do? and we should be acting exactly like Jesus. And it's true, Jesus was the perfect man. And I have not thought all the way through this. We can ask the pastors about this. Are we called to carry out the exact same mission as Jesus? I don't think so. Jesus was called.
I think that would be an impossibility.
So then we have a different calling. And does that mean that where this came up, I got a friend whose father is a pastor, and we were sitting at a wedding, and it was just he and I talking for a while, and he was saying he doesn't talk politics at the pulpit. And he said he doesn't do it because Jesus would find a place where Jesus talked about politics. I said, hey, man, you're not Jesus. You don't have the same job as Jesus. And your job as a pastor is to shepherd people, your flock, through what's going on in the world. And politics are seriously in our face in America, and Christians don't know what to do about it. And they need somebody like you to interpret politics through the lens of the Bible. And he said, well, Jesus didn't do that. And I'm like, you're not Jesus, man. And so that is where when people regularly say, Jesus wouldn't do this. I'm like, I don't think we got the same calling. I can't do what Jesus did, and he didn't ask me to. I got a different job over here. I don't know how scripturally sound that argument is, but it is something I've been thinking through.
Yeah, I think it's our job as best we can to give people the information so that they have the information and context to understand the Bible and the Word, and help them take the blinders off. The world puts blinders on you and makes Jesus really hard to understand and to understand the brilliance of his deal. And so as best we can to help take the blinders off of people so they can actually see what the world is doing to them and how the world, that undercurrent again, is this conversation we had. Well, I'll circle it back to Lamar Jackson and we'll wrap this up. This conversation we had about Lamar Jackson and just, him coming up with a hairstyle that's feminine. It's had for other young people to say, hey, don't do this. But maybe Lamar Jackson hears this and maybe someone shares with him scripture that clearly states men shouldn't take on the appearance of women. Women shouldn't take on the appearance of men. This is biblically unsound. And so it's important. And again, it's not your job, Lamar, in my view, to redefine what masculinity and what men dress like, blah, blah, blah. If you got to sit somewhere and have someone put a bunch of chemicals in your hair to straighten out your hair so that you can look that way, I promise you, God doesn't want you to do that. And it's not a healthy thing. And so many kids are looking up to you that will now, hey, let me go straighten out my hair. Let me go look like RuPaul or all these other ZESTY guys that are running around. Let's cut out the zestiness, Lamar, because that is toxic and it's contagious. So we'll end on that note. Lamar, if you're watching, love you to death, love the way you play quarterback. Don't do zesty things, and this hairstyle looks zesty. Don't you all go anywhere. Shamika Michelle and Steve Kim will follow in. We'll have some additional conversation. Thank you for joining us on this great Wednesday morning. More Fearless next. The shots being fired my direction.
I should know he ain't really worth the shit.
You nothing but a puppet and a brown nosing.
Society is filled with people on the sidelines taking shots at successful people.
I've had enough of that fat bastard.
So, that's what I do. You coward.
I'll listen to you. If you have any ideas, I'll take them.
I love Jason Whitlock. I respect the hell out of him.
That I'm calling the Gatesful Eight. I just don't want this thing between you and Eminem to turn into Tupac and Biggie.
I'm full-blown MAGA tonight.
I sort of did a joke meme about it, like, hey, who else was persecuted right before Easter?
I've never voted, JD, is because I'm just incredibly cynical. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 reason that I'm back is to feed you raps and I see that you are 배불러 so fly
Steve, Bill Maher ripped into the Nike commercial and all this junk about just win, baby, and there's this whole world against you among for women's athletes. Bill Maher on his show ripped this. Let's play the clip and then we'll discuss.
Well, as long as we're talking about the battle of the sexes, did you watch the Super Bowl? Did you see the commercials? Did you see the Nike commercial that they ran with all the women athletes? Are we allowed to show a piece of that? Well, let's just... If the answer is yes, show it now.
You can't take credit. You can't speak up. You can't be so ambitious. You can't break records. You can't have any fun. You can't make demands. You can't keep score. You can't stand out. Whatever you do, you can't win.
Okay, so there's this phrase I use a lot here, zombie lie. A zombie lie. It means like something that used to be true and it stopped being true and then people kept saying it. I feel like this is a giant zombie lie. And if the Democrats are ever going to win again, they have to realize something about the American people. They're not that savvy about politics, but they know when you're lying. I mean... When was the last time a woman was told, you can't do this, you can't be confident? Who are these imaginary mean old men of the patriarchy?
I think he's 1,000% right. It's a total made-up narrative. It's no different. I wish he had the courage to say, hey, and you know what? Black people, these old mean old white people that just don't want you to get ahead, actually, that's not true either. They want you to get ahead, so you'll quit bitching and complaining, and you'll quit living off government handouts. People want you to stand on your own 2 feet, and we celebrate it when you do. Same thing here applies to women. We've got Title IX, we've got DEI, you got the NBA financing the WNBA that loses $30, $40 million a year, but Nike wants to come out with a commercial, you can't win, everybody's against you. It's a joke.
The athletes that we like and look up to and are held upon in an exalted position in our culture, we admire them, we do not pity them, and they constantly look for pity. And it's getting old, and I can honestly say this, I'm unapologetically apathetic towards the whole thing. Nobody is not letting you play. You can be however you want. The people make more excuses for you. But I have a question, though, Jason. That is very interesting that Maher, of all people, is tying this directly into politics. So is he saying basically that, or is he admitting right there that commercial is almost a Democratic talking point?
Yeah, he's admitting that. And he's admitting that that's why they're disconnected from the American people. Yes. The truth is undefeated, and you can, again, he calls it a zombie lie, but people are tired of it. It just doesn't ring true. Oh my God, the whole world is against black people. That's just not true. People aren't, no, and again, I'm connecting it to just an overall messaging from the left, convincing people they have these imaginary enemies. But I just haven't met any white person that's sitting around going, hey, how do we throw a banana peel and trip up black people? Because black people have already thrown a banana peel on themselves. They shoot and kill each other. They don't respect marriage. They're throwing so many banana peels at our own kids, denying them a father in the home, denying them beautiful music that uplifts their spirit rather than bring them down. I'm glad he's calling BS. I'm not sure if he figures out, if he's aware of the totality of the BS he's calling out, but I connect it all together.
I would make an argument that white supremacy years ago was about eradicating or eliminating or just definitely hurting people of color. Now it's just about leaving them alone. Let them be. But I find this fascinating, though, this whole pity party. If this is truly tied into politics, I love it, because as someone that is now just flat out conservative, hardcore, I hope they don't change a thing. I hope they don't change a thing coming into the primaries. I hope they do not change a thing into 2028, because when I hear talk Jazzy Jazz Crockett and AOC and even Kamala being boosted up as the presidential candidate for the Democrats in 2028, I only have one word. Please. Oh, pretty please. So yeah, if they want to continue with this particular agenda and this messaging, Jason, let's just step out of the way. Let's not stop them.
I know why they're finding it hard to give up on, though, because it's been very effective. The politics of grievance, the politics of this imaginary enemy out there, the delusional world that, and I'm just sorry, many women and many black people live in, where there's, I talk about it constantly on the show, this myth that like, hey, there's this great debt that men owe you. And men have bought into it, and we've been trying to repay some imaginary debt to women. It's like, hey, let's do Title IX and focus more money on creating female athletes than male athletes. Yeah, that's what we need to do. We've bought into that completely. And that's how we've gotten where we are, where there is no emphasis on developing male leadership. There's the destruction of the Boy Scouts and everything that cultivated and developed men. We've done this in sacrifice to feminism and the belief that, hey, there's some debt owed. The exact same thing. I know this won't be popular with a certain demographic, but we've done the exact same thing. Hey, let's end meritocracy. Let's impose diversity, equity, inclusion. Let's do all this. Let's penalize what is being framed as white culture, what I consider just Christian culture. Let's frame that as evil and it must be destroyed. We've allowed it to happen. And so I get why the Democrats keep going back to this. It appears to be working, and we'll see if it's not working anymore or if it's just a good talking point for Bill Maher.
Yeah, I guess, but I think November 5th signaled a change in society, at least in American society. No longer do we have to be guilty or hide our support of a particular candidate. He's in the president now. If you look at his numbers in terms of his acceptance and the approval ratings that are higher than they've ever been. And this is only 3.5 weeks in. So I don't know. I maybe in 2020 to 21 and even 22, people had to pretend and maybe fake their allegiance and their support. My view is this: people are now coming out of the closet, not in terms of their sexual preference or their lifestyle. They are now openly coming out of the closet politically in terms of who they support and why. I think the guilt trip is over because it failed on the night of November 5th.
Steve, and we don't have to belabor it, but part of your argument, I think, is, and that I'm still suspicious of, you're arguing like, hey, George Floyd 2.0, it'll never happen again. People won't fall for it. It can't happen again. People will reject that. Do you think people have the courage to, if they create another George Floyd type situation, to say, I ain't going for that. That dude resisting arrest, in and out of jail. I ain't going for that.
I would hope so. Look, if there's a real situation and it's a true injustice, I would hope people do not go off emotion, but actually the evidence. There was this emotional extortion that took place 4 years ago, where if a certain group of people had a grievance or a complaint, then the other side had to just naturally capitulate. I think that's over. People are trying to live their own lives. I believe there's an uplifting of American patriotism. And there has to be some courage to this. If you lose a few friends, if you're not in the same social circle, so be it. I get it that people are afraid of their jobs, their placement in society and status. But, there comes a point in time, we got to have some guts to this whole thing. And I don't know. I think that we are in a different time and place than we were, let's say, in the summer of 2020 to about the mid part of 2022.
Steve, great job as always. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. To Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. TJ, this whole situation with Jonathan Martin, the former NFL player, and Richie Incognito, former NFL player, they were Dolphins teammates. There's been this recasting of this famous Bullygate story between these two that Jonathan Martin did an interview with ESPN, and he's saying now that he never felt bullied. Richie Incognito, the former offensive lineman that was accused of bullying him, and it was a big story in 2013. Richie Incognito feels like he's been totally exonerated. The story's being unpacked over social media and within legacy media as if Richie Incognito has been totally exonerated. I'm not sure if I feel that way or in agreement with the way this story is being unpacked. I do know that in 2013, I think Richie Incognito maybe got suspended for 8 games over Bullygate. He was vilified. His career was put on hold. They're taking one quote from the Jonathan Martin, the offensive lineman from Stanford, that, again, this is the Miami Dolphins in 2013, and Mike Pouncey and Richie Incognito are all involved. I think we're going too far calling this a total exoneration of Richie Incognito. At some point, we may talk with Richie Incognito. I've exchanged text messages with Richie. Richie's someone that I know. Do feel like the story was out of context in 2013, but I'm not sure if this is a full exoneration. Your thoughts?
Well, we'll let Richie tell us if he comes on. That'd be fun to watch. I think when I first heard it in 2013, my big takeaway is Jonathan Martin is way too soft to be in the NFL. And if to the degree that any of this stuff may have happened, and I don't know what to believe and what not to believe, it was being phased out by the time I was in locker rooms in 2013, 2014. What we're talking about here was probably way more mainstream in the locker room in 1990. You know, I was in high school and college. So high school is 2005. The first talking to we got from our head coach was, there will not be an ounce of hazing, zero bullying, none. We will not do that here. Gary Pinkel did the exact same thing, and that was in 2009 at the University of Missouri. Belichick did the same thing, and his reason was, hey, fellas, you think you're going to push around these rookies that you've watched help us win Super Bowls? Whether they're undrafted, whether they're first-round pick, I do not care. Do not mess with them, not a single one. And Jeff Fisher, of course, did not have a single bit of control over his locker room. And there was still no hazing there. There was no bullying. There was nothing there. This was 2014 when I was in that locker room. And so I was there through OTAs and training camp. So it doesn't mean it wasn't happening anywhere in the league, because, some of the stuff Richie Incognito did over his life was probably over the line. But I'm telling you, most of the guys just kind of stand up for themselves and don't let it happen. And Jonathan Martin instead cried about it and ended up out of the league.
So let's go to a more recent example. Pat Fitzgerald, celebrated coach at Northwestern, got run out over bullying accusations. This has happened in the last 2 years, I believe. Pat Fitzgerald, head coach at Northwestern, and so it's like, what gets defined as bullying as opposed to what is typical male culture? What is pressure being applied to certain players? Hey, if you're not pulling your weight. And so I think the Dolphins players in 2013, and I think even in modern sports culture, coaches do everything they can to rid themselves, to CYA, cover themselves, make sure there's no bullying, something they get sued for. But if you put a group of men together and there's some physical goal that they have, and they want to start pressuring teammates to live up to their end of the bargain, to be tough enough for the NFL, to push people to get the thickness and toughness of skin you need to survive in the NFL, I think it can happen now. I think it happened then. I think it's still happening now to some degree. It's and I can remember writing in real time, and I went back and reread what I said in 2013 that I believe is true based on the I think it was Ted Wells that did the investigation and just what the players said in interviews. There was people identified that, hey, Jonathan Martin from Stanford came up with parents that were highly educated. He's not the stereotypical football player. And he comes from a culture and environment that's softer than most football coaches. Even just Stanford, the IQ of the guys that can get into Stanford and play football, that's a different culture than the NFL. This guy was, I think now he's involved with Bitcoin and he does these TED Talk type deals. He just wasn't built for football. And they drafted him, the Dolphins did, in the second round. Those players wanted the guy that was drafted that high to be tough enough for the NFL, and they tried to toughen him up, and it spun out of control. And Richie Incognito, and I'm telling you, I like Richie. He's much smarter than you would think, and he's very articulate, and there is a side to his argument. But I do think Richie Incognito went too far with, Jonathan Martin's dad saved some voicemails that Richie Incognito left for Jonathan Martin that are inappropriate at the very least, and speak to hey, there needed to be more oversight on what these guys were doing. But I just think you get a group of men together and there's a goal and there's some physicality to what they're doing, there's going to be something that can be framed as bullying. And if I even evaluate Fearless, and, there's a Christian culture that, I'm trying to instill within Fearless. Could someone with the wrong mentality that's not a Christian that gets dropped into this environment think that, say, hey, man, what Whitlock and that culture, they're trying to bully me or what? I think, and we wouldn't be, I would be arguing, no, we wouldn't. But when you drop a foreigner behind enemy lines, there's going to be miscommunication, there's going to be accusations, there's going to be cultural tension that could lead one party to say, hey, man, this was a hostile environment.
Yes, I think all of that's exactly right. And when I was thinking about while you were talking there is, do you know why this is coming up? Not necessarily now, but just years later after Jonathan Martin has had time to reflect. It is obviously because he's a man who had an opportunity to look and say, man, I could have stood up for myself. None of that's bullying. You can't bully a man. That's what Richie Incognito was thinking. He's saying, you played offensive line, Jason. You could answer this for me. You got to be pretty tough down there in the trenches. And if we're ever going to win anything here in Miami, then you're going to have to toughen up. But if that takes me leaving some voicemails that are a little bit too colorful, that's what Richie Incognito decided he was going to do because he wanted to win. Do you really think Richie Incognito, I don't know if he's got a family or not, but most people don't make a sport out of spending all their time trying to toughen up somebody else, particularly at that age in the NFL. You got plenty of money. You're chasing women and doing crazy stuff. Do you really think he felt like spending all of his time bullying Jonathan Martin? Or did he think, hey, we suck. I'm one of the best linemen in the NFL. It's because I'm a tough country boy, and you need to toughen up, and it's going to take a guy like me to toughen you up. And it finally hit home with Jonathan Martin, who said, he was trying to toughen me up. And a man would have stood up and did something instead of telling the media about it.
What I can say about Richie and offensive linemen and just young people, because I used to be an offensive lineman, I used to be young, And I'm telling you, we can get involved with really, really dumb things that if told to the wrong people, and if just told factually, could make us look like, the worst people on the planet. And that's what I think happened here. There's some truth to what Richie Incognito did that does not paint him in a great light. If you really knew Richie Incognito in totality, you'd be like, hey man, this is an idiot that needed some oversight. And because I can relate to that. I was an idiot. Now I was a little bit younger than Richie Incognito, early in his professional career. Let's say he's 26, 27 years old, 28 at this time. I'm talking about myself at 21, 22. I'm telling you, I could sit here and tell a story right now about something I was involved with in college, while not illegal. Boy, it paints me in a bad light. And boy, I look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe we did that. And if someone went and retold that story, and again, I don't want it all to be a mystery, but it's just like a teammate of mine had a problem with a girl he was dating, and he found out that she was sleeping with another teammate. And he wanted to do something to embarrass her because he was upset about it. And again, nothing that he did was physical or anything like that, but it was embarrassing to her. And if me and some other guys just, again, there's idiot things without oversight that I've just seen young men do. You get a bunch of guys together and we start thinking, hey, we know what to do. And we do some really, really dumb stuff. And so I just, as it relates to Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito, there's part of me that thinks, hey, someone here is trying to sell a documentary, because I don't even understand how this all bubbled up again in terms of why is it relevant? Why is everyone talking about it? This seems orchestrated. The whole Bullygate thing wasn't a big enough deal that I think it's relevant 12 years later. I think this is orchestrated to some degree to hype a documentary. I know a couple of people are working on documentaries. Anyway, pay attention to this story. I think there's more to this story. No one's been exonerated here. I do think, Richie Incognito, not the villain that he was made out to be in that situation, but also not an innocent victim. TJ, thank you so much. Great job as always. We'll see you guys next time.
Freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free.